Hi. The focus of this mini lecture is to look at the Gilded Age in American life. Let's get into it. All right. With any of these mini lectures, as with this one, the focus here is to illuminate, to be able to give us context into American society at the time of the growth and popularity or intersection of certain sports. So, for example, 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, right? This is a period in which you're going to have what we might today call alternative sports that are going to be popular. So pedestrianism, right, is one, right? There's a lot of different things. But again, this is also the time period of baseball really, really gaining popularity. So, okay, why, right? What's going on here? So 1870s, 1880s, 1890s, give or take a few years, right? This is what is called the Gilded Age. Now, part of this comes to us from the writings of Mark Twain. However, what it kind of means is this idea that you've got this outer sheath that is gilded, right? This idea of on the outside things look pretty good, but on the inside things are very, very troubling and very difficult. So in many ways, Twain, of course, is very much correct that you see a lot of good, a lot of industrial success, at the end of the 1800s for many in America. However, not everyone necessarily benefited in the same exact way as, say, some of the leaders of, these industries. So a good term or couple of terms for us to note. First, of course, is going to be Carnegie and Rockefeller. So Andrew Carnegie as well as John D. Rockefeller are going to be two of the key industrial leaders in the later part of the 19th century within American life. Rockefeller is the head of what's called Standard Oil, and Andrew Carnegie as the head of the Carnegie Steel Corporation, which he will sell to J.P. Morgan at the beginning of the 1900s. Now, both of these become incredibly successful companies, and both Carnegie and Rockefeller in particular make many, many, many millions. And if you translate that into 21st century dollars, oh my, they did very well. But while that might be the case for some, of course, that doesn't mean that everyone living in America at the time is going to be able to experience this time frame in the same way. And so another term for us to be mindful of is what's called tenements. So in the later part of the 1800s, as cities are growing and neighborhoods in these cities are transforming, partly due to both internal migration in the country, as well as an influx of immigrant communities being established. One of the things that you're going to see is both the transformation of buildings to meet the needs for multiple families, and maybe those buildings weren't intended for that. And secondly, you'll also see the construction of buildings as well to meet the needs of multiple families. However, in some cities, the infrastructure within those buildings and in those neighborhoods left a lot to be desired. And so the functional result was you have many who are going to end up in some of these tenement buildings and tenement houses where the conditions are quite poor and they're going to struggle quite mightily. So if you were to go to the Library of Congress and to look at images of tenements, you're going to be looking in some of the major cities of the late part of the 1800s. A figure to note with this is Jacob Riis, who took photographs at that time, trying to highlight the inequities and the difficulties that those living in the tenements and in some of these communities would have faced. Another example of a term for us to note, so we've got Carnegie, we've got Rockefeller, we've got tenements, we've got Jacob Riis, and then, of course, another phrase for us to note is going to be what's called the City Beautiful movement. So the City Beautiful movement is going to be a movement that's a part of this time period, and you're going to see it played out in some of these new and growing urban spaces. So urbanization was very much a part of the Gilded Age, where on one side you had sort of this another phrase or term for us would be this highly visible display of wealth. But on the other side, you would have, spaces which would be seen as rather difficult or unseemly. And so the City Beautiful movement, the whole idea was to kind of clean things up. Now, there's a lot of racialized elements to this. There's class elements to this. And there's economic divide kind of elements to this. The idea was to kind of reshape some of these spaces so that you can take advantage of a natural world. However, there is politicization that is a part of this as well. But you'll see this in the park spaces and others that are created at the time. All right. Thank you very much.